Good morning and welcome to the first EFSA Virtual Career Event. I will now leave the floor to Executive Director Bernard, who kindly accepted to open this webinar.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm still waiting for a second to be also on the screen. I hope you can see me. Yes, I think it works now. Good morning and welcome to the first virtual EFSA Career Event. It's a pleasure for me to welcome all of you, colleagues and citizens of Europe interested in the work of EFSA. Actually, I only want to cover two small items, or let's say it's not small items, two short items, which I would like to share with you. One is, why could it be useful? Why could it be rewarding to work with EFSA? And I think one of the biggest privileges we have is the purpose of our work, the meaning of the work, because what we are doing is producing food safety. And not only food safety in a narrow sense, it's also about animal health, animal welfare, plant health, environmental protection. So the purpose, the meaning of what we do is really rewarding each and every one of us. And I think if we are looking for an employment, a job, for how we spend our time, purpose and meaning are extremely important. Second is what I would call mastery. We really put a lot of effort on lifelong learning, on development, on investing in our people, not only the employees, but also the colleagues that work with us. So getting better in what we do and achieving something like mastery is very rewarding, and EFSA is putting a lot of focus on that. And finally, it's also autonomy. I think autonomy is very important for keeping the intrinsic motivation high, and we try to give our people the maximum of autonomy, how they organize their work. I mean, we call the scientific work we do organized skepticism. So we are looking for colleagues that are curious, that are skeptical in a positive way, and sometimes hear a word of from Steve Jobs, the founder and CEO of Apple, comes to my mind, who once said, "We don't hire the best people to tell them what to do. We hire the best people that they tell us what to do." And we try to emulate this in a certain way. So we want colleagues who are curious and critical in a constructive way. Let's call it like that. So these are reasons why it could be very rewarding and worthwhile to work with EFSA. And maybe one thing to mention here is also cooperation. EFSA is a cooperation organization. We are built as a network, as a hub within the European food safety ecosystem. So cooperation, not only solving problems together, but also creating and seizing opportunities of the future together is extremely important for us. So that's the why. And the how, there are many different ways, and you will see today, there are many different ways you can work with EFSA. That starts off being a trainee, that can be a seconded national expert, that can be a guest scientist, that can be a member in our networks, in our working groups, in our scientific panels, that can be individual contributors, experts and scientists that have knowledge that we need. So many different ways how to approach EFSA and how to work with EFSA. You will see a lot of insights that you get today during this career event from my colleagues, who will guide you through the next 2.5 hours with many different aspects of our work. And the last thing I would like to mention is something like a specific culture that we have in EFSA. I think EFSA is really an open and friendly and welcoming organization. It's not only about science, about evidence, about facts and figures. There's also a lot about taking care for one another. We have also seen this through the COVID pandemic, that this organization is also, I don't want to use the metaphor of a family, but it's let's call it a tribe with a lot of solidarity, respect, And this also features nice with the values of EFSA. So I hope you will be attracted by what you get presented this morning, and I hope you will consider to work with us. I would be really happy about that. I wish you fruitful and interesting and appealing 2.5 hours with my colleagues. Thank you very much for having joined this event.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Let's further explore the missions of EFSA with Sergio, one of our colleagues from the Engagement and Cooperation Unit.
Good morning to all. I hope you can hear me well. I will start with a couple of slides to introduce EFSA and in a wider context of the European agencies. EFSA is one of the more than 40 decentralized agencies that exist in the European Union. We are located in Parma, Italy. There are other agencies, and basically our work, the work of the European agencies, is to support the European Commission on the implementation of the European policies, and as well to support the national governments by pooling technical and specific expertise from both the EU institution and national authorities. You will see on the slide not only EFSA in orange, but other agencies like the European Chemical Agency, the European Center for Disease Control, and the European Medicine Agency. They are located in different countries. The reason why we chose these ones, in addition to the ones which are indicated as a yellow spot, is because we call them sister agencies, as the part of the work that they carry out overlaps with the one of EFSA. Next slide, please. So what is EFSA? EFSA is a European reference body for risk assessment, and maybe I should highlight here the word, the expression risk assessment. We covered the food and the feed chain from farm to fork, from the primary production up to the consumer, and it's important to understand the breadth of the scope that we cover in our scientific activities. We are, however, one of the bodies that are responsible for ensuring food safety. There are other bodies that are responsible for ensuring food safety. I was highlighting in my slide before the expression of risk assessment, scientific advice, as I was also referring to, but there are other activities that will lead to food safety, activities that concern the production of legislation, the activities that relate with controls that are carried out at a European level or at national level to ensure that the food that we consume is safe. Next slide, please. So what we do is to provide independent scientific advice and support EU risk managers and policymakers and food and feed safety. Risk assessment, independent scientific advice is certainly one of our core activities. However, we do not only do that, we also carry out risk communication, and we do this together with other bodies like, for example, the European Commission, and also as well the national competent authorities. Risk communication is definitely an important part of the scientific assessment process, because we may generate scientific assessment, but we need to communicate it not only to the scientific and to the regulator, to scientists and to regulators, but to the wider public, so that we convey well the information that the food that we consume is safe at the European level. Bernard, our executive director, has already mentioned that it would not be possible for us to operate without cooperation. We are one piece of the machine that enables the food safety in a general manner. Through scientific cooperation, we interact, we draw, we look out for experts, for organizations that can support EFSA with its work. And our mandate would not be possible if we would not carry out this work in cooperation with the member states and other European bodies. Next slide, please. So also important to highlight, what do we not do, what we don't do. We are not responsible for developing food safety policies and legislation. This is clearly something that falls under the remit of the European Commission and in certain occasions of the national competent authorities. We do not adopt those regulations. We are not responsible for authorizing the marketing of new products. Again, this is really falling under the umbrella of the risk managers. And we are also not responsible for enforcing the legislation. This is also the responsibility of risk managers, and you may have already heard, for example, about the Food and Veterinary Office, which carry out controls and audits in the member states, precisely with the purpose of ensuring that the European legislation is complied with them. Next slide, please. This one is taking a bit longer.
So it seems that we have a technical problem. Simon, can I please kindly ask you to share the slide?
Which does not prevent me from continuing my presentation. Bernard has mentioned already that we operate under a domain of values, and those values are very, very important. I will start by referring to one of them, the one that concerns scientific excellence. I cannot say it's a no-brainer, but definitely we would not be delivering fit-for-purpose scientific advice if we would not try the best possible scientific advice to be provided to our regulators, to the risk managers. With this scientific advice, then regulators are able to prepare the legislation, and in addition, also taking into consideration other aspects which are important for the production, for the regulatory process. We are also driven by innovation, which is basically a result of the fact that science does not stop. Science evolves over time continuously, and we need to be able to cope with the pace and the evolution and the change in science. Therefore, we put a very strong focus on innovation, being it coming from research, being it coming from the private sector also, for us to produce our scientific advice. Can we move to the next slide on access values, which is the one that I am referring to? The other important aspect, and actually is the area where I work, is the EFSA value that relates with cooperation. I mentioned already, it would be impossible for EFSA to deliver on its mandate if we would not work together. It's more than working together. I think the expression I would use is that the putting together the work that each one of us can do sums up to more than the simple addition of its parts. So we have an added value that results from the fact of cooperation. Expertise, organizations detaining competence exist in the at member state level, and at European level, and we would not be able to deliver on our mandate if we would not be connecting and cooperating with these other counterparts. We call them partners, actually. Independence is another core value. Our science is required to be independent. This is in the very essence of the foundation of EFSA. We were at some point in time, 20 years ago, EFSA, when EFSA was created, was precisely with the aim to ensure that the scientific assessment generating process is independent from the one that leads to the production of legislation and the one that leads to the enforcement of the legislation. So our independence is at the core of our values. And finally, openness, which very much relates with transparency. The work that we do from a scientific perspective, we already mentioned the importance of risk communication in our activities at the EFSA end. We try to the best of our ability to ensure that our scientific assessment process is carried out in the most transparent manner, and we communicate and inform different target audiences about our scientific assessment processes. Next slide, please. So who is asking EFSA for scientific advice? Well, our regular customer is, I would say, the European Commission, but also the European Parliament, the member states, and EFSA itself can task itself with own mandates. The latter case occurs mainly when EFSA identifies the need for a particular scientific advice, which is required to inform and to complement a scientific assessment process where, for example, there could be gaps in terms of scientific knowledge. What happens after? We receive the question, we run it through a scientific process that I was referring to it as a risk assessment. We evaluate and we look into those scientific assessments at the level of our scientific panels, and we adopt our scientific opinions, which are then communicated to the requesters at the European Commission normally, but we also publish our scientific outputs in a very transparent manner. Next slide, please. The tools for the job. Basically, we need to look at the tools as the main ingredients that will lead to the scientific output, which are the outcome of the scientific assessment process. So basically, we have data that can be structured, can be unstructured, that data that may not exist, and therefore we may need eventually the knowledge. And then I jump into the other ingredient, which is people, the risk assessment expertise, and the reason why obviously we need to operate in a wider cooperation umbrella is precisely because the people, the risk assessment expertise is not located only in Parma, is located all over Europe and beyond. And to take data and to arrive to scientific output, obviously we need to follow a methodology. EFSA has invested a lot in harmonizing its risk assessment methodologies to ensure that the scientific assessment process is carried out in an harmonized manner, not only by EFSA but also by the national competent authorities. Our scientific panels, our guardians of that validate and adopt our scientific outputs, they are established and they cover all those areas that you see there on the slide, from plant health to nutrition, food additives, areas that you may not necessarily relate with food safety, like, and we do have a mandate, for example, in domains like the one on animal health, animal diseases that are not directly linked with food safety. The same happens with animal welfare. The same happens in domains that relate with plant health. We do have a scientific committee, which is composed by the chairs of the scientific panels plus independent scientific experts, and the scientific committee often addresses questions or mandates which are of cross-cutting nature. Next slide, please. And our partners, the ones with whom obviously we establish partnerships. Using the word that Bernard used, these are basically the ones that compose our ecosystem, where we build our partnerships, where we carry out our work. It would be impossible for us to deliver on our mandate if we would not draw and if we would not put together experts from all over Europe and seek their input, ask them ask them the information that we need in order for us to carry out our scientific assessment processes. We do, for example, also outsource work, and it's not just a matter of putting experts together and coming to a scientific output. Often EFSA also uses the organizations that exist in the member states for them to carry out parts of the scientific assessment process, and in the future, why not the full scientific assessment process, which eventually will be peer reviewed by the our scientific panels. So there's an array of national food safety organizations in the member states that support EFSA with its work. Obviously, we keep close contacts with international organizations that operate within, the domains that EFSA does, and as well we keep in touch with international organizations in third countries. And I think that is the end of my presentation, my slides. I give the floor back to Anne, and thank you for your attention. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergio. I can see that Bernard is still connected. May I ask Simon, do we have a question in the chat that we can ask maybe our executive director?
Yeah. Yes, Anne, indeed, there have been a lot of questions from the audience, and I have selected 3 questions for our executive director. Rest assured, all the others who pose the question, that we have several moderators in the chat box, and all your questions will be answered today. I have the first question for our executive director. Dear Bernard, could you give us, please, some concrete examples of EFSA's work that impact our daily life?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the question. And again, thanks for the interest in the work of EFSA. I mean, there are many aspects we work on. What comes to my mind is, for example, health claims. You find claims on food products you can buy in the supermarkets that make assumptions, that make statements about how they are supporting the brain function, the immune function, or whatever. And all these health claims have to be assessed by EFSA on their scientific veracity, whether they are accurate, whether they are true, whether there's scientific evidence that supports the claim. And only after an assessment by EFSA, the European Commission and the member states would allow these claims to be used. That's one example. Another example from a different field is the shelf life of eggs. You may know that eggs can also carry pathogenic organisms, mainly Salmonella, not only, but Salmonella and eggs are in a way linked. And there was the idea whether the shelf life of eggs could be extended to reduce food waste, which is an extremely important topic in the discussion on sustainability. And EFSA experts assessed whether the shelf life of eggs in the supermarket can be extended without endangering the health of the consumers. And actually the outcome was it should not be extended. And maybe a last example, which I find a very beautiful one, is our work on bee health. EFSA is doing a lot of work to understand the factors, the influence which make beehives suffer and which lead to the decline of bees and other pollinators. And pollinators are extremely important for our environment. And our work on bee health helps to learn about the ecology of bees, but also to protect bees. And I think it's one of the examples where many different scientists of EFSA and outside EFSA work together to protect pollinators in Europe. I'll stop here because there would be so many examples, but that would sort of go outside this meeting. Back to you, Simon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bernard. I have a question from the audience. Which are the other European bodies that EFSA cooperates with, and in which way it does so?
You mean other European bodies?
Yes, that's a question indeed.
Yeah, I mean, there are. If we only look at the European level, not on the member states level, there are obviously the three institutions in Brussels: the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council, which have specific roles because they are legislators, they are the budgetary authority, and the European Commission is, so to speak, our partner on the risk management side. But besides that, and Sergio was pointing to that, we are building more and more collaborations with our what we call sister agencies: the European Chemicals Agency in Helsinki, the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control in Stockholm, the European Environment Agency in Copenhagen, and the European Medicines Agency in Amsterdam. These agencies have many similarities with us. We call it that we together build in Europe a One Health, One Planet cluster of agencies. We are dealing with health, with safety, with food, with infectious diseases, and also with the environment. So they are main collaboration partners on the European level, but then in the member states, we have hundreds of universities, research organizations, risk assessment organizations we collaborate with. And I think this is important. If you are interested in working with EFSA, there are many opportunities also to have staff exchange, to be a guest scientist somewhere in Paris or in Berlin or in Stockholm or in Copenhagen. So it's not only Parma, as beautiful as Parma is. There are many openings also to see much more of the European food safety ecosystem.
Thank you for that, Bernard. There is a question a bit about the mandate of EFSA from a participant, and the question is as follows: can your decisions have a binding effect on the different actors of the food chain, or is it mainly only based on advice?
Yeah, thank you for this question. We are a scientific advice organization. We are not taking the decisions on authorization or non-authorization of a pesticide, of a genetically modified organism, a food additive, whatever, a feed additive. And I think this differentiation is very important, and Europe is extremely strict on this differentiation, different to the United States, for example, where you have both scientific advice and decision making in the US Food and Drug Administration or in the US EPA, the Environment Protection Agency. Europe, after the BSE crisis, the mad cow disease, has decided to separate advice from risk management. So we do scientific advice, give it to the risk managers, and the risk managers decide then on a political level whether a certain measure can be taken, whether a certain product should be authorized or not. And I personally find this differentiation very important because our work is evidence-based, as value-free as possible. And the political work obviously is driven by values because politicians decide how our societies should look like in the future. And that's not a scientific decision, that's a political decision. And our work is science, evidence, and advice.
Thank you very much, Bernard, for answering the questions of the audience. Much appreciated. As I said, we will come back to everybody individually, and now we will move to the next part of the event. So I will pass the floor back to Anne, our presenter.
Thank you very much. Ciao, bye-bye from my side.
Thank you, Bernard, and thank you, Simon. Now we know what EFSA is, let's talk about careers. Whether you are a scientist or a non-scientist, a young graduate or an expert, how can you join EFSA and why should you do so? Answering this question is the whole purpose of this webinar. Let's start talking about careers with Elena, the team leader of the talent selection team, who will present to you the different career opportunities in EFSA.
Yeah. Thank you, Anne. Can you hear me well?
We can hear you, we can see you.
Perfect. Thank you, Anne, and welcome to all of you. As Bernard and Sergio were saying, at EFSA we are always on the lookout for talents from a wide range of scientific disciplines, as well as from other professions. I saw in the chat some questions about which are the profiles that we need, and indeed, it's several scientific profiles in the different areas under the EFSA remit, but we also are hiring communication experts, experts in cooperation, experts in data and IT, as well as experts in business administration, law and finance. Working at EFSA, as Bernard was saying, means contributing to a rewarding mission and working in a multicultural environment. Indeed, I also saw in the chat some questions about EFSA, how big it is. So today at EFSA, we are around a bit more than 500 staff members from all over Europe. And we are in a growing phase. So this is why you will see we have several opportunities for you and more are coming. Working for us, I was saying, means therefore working in a multicultural environment. All our employees come from all over Europe, and we are also cooperating with around 1,000 experts from Europe, but also beyond Europe. We also have, we are, I think, a dynamic agency. We are based in Parma. Unfortunately, we are not able to welcome you at our modern headquarters. You have a picture of it behind our screen. But we also offer, I would say, growth and development opportunities and an enriching working environment. Our colleagues will then present you a bit more of details about these opportunities. Our career calls are always published in our website and career page. You see them now on the screen, and they are organized around 4 quadrants: staff, experts, young professionals, and secondments. If we move to the next slide, we can enter a bit more into the details of our offers. So the first one is staff. Staff means working for EFSA as a staff member, so being employed by EFSA. We are a part of the European Union, and therefore all our calls for staff are open to nationals of the EU, but also Iceland and Norway. We offer temporary agent and contract agent position depending on the business needs, and normally the contract duration of our working contract is initially 5 years, that then can be renewed, and after the second renewal, staff becomes of indefinite duration. We offer competitive financial conditions and a wide range of benefits according to the staff regulation. But also we offer really pleasant working environments here at Parma, because indeed our staff position, of course, are for colleagues that would join EFSA in Parma, with flexible working time and flexible working condition. And our colleagues in the next session will give you a bit more of details about this. Applying to our call as well is a piece of information that Rana and Elena later today will show you. We have all our calls published on our career page. Let's move to the second pillar of our talents at EFSA, that is the expert community. As I was telling you, we are working with around 1,000 experts, and those experts, we have panel experts that are working in one of our 10 panels and the scientific committee, and covering all the different areas from fit to fork of our activity. The panel call is launched every 5 years, and it's also published not only on our website, but we have a full dissemination also on the OJ for the expert call. You can contribute as an expert for EFSA, as a panel expert, but also as a working group experts that are working on specific mandates to then provide the work to the EFSA panels. We also would like to present you, and possibly some of you have seen it because it's live on our website, another flexible schemes that we have developed. We call it ISA schemes. It's a scheme open to individual experts, individual scientists. And the aim here is to have experts that are supporting EFSA in conducting some preparatory work for its risk assessment. It's a very flexible scheme. Experts can work from remote and can also choose the quantity of work. So they can work, you know, for the remuneration is based on a daily remuneration, depending on the number of and the quantity of preparatory work and the difficulty of it that you are contributing to EFSA. So again, you will see these calls under our quadrant experts. Moving to opportunities for young professionals, I imagine we have a lot of young professionals here connected with us. I would start with the traineeship scheme. Our traineeship scheme is, we are very proud of it, actually. It's a very successful scheme. We receive every year over 2,000 applications. We welcome around 80 trainees, but as EFSA is growing, we are also considering growing the number of trainees we can welcome. They are actually joining us in Parma, but in this during this pandemic, actually we are all working from remote. Our traineeship is quite competitive because it lasts 12 months. It's paid traineeship, and I would say it's really a great opportunity to have a first-hand experience of working for EFSA, either in a scientific unit, but also in our communication departments, as well as our business support department. We also have under the young professional schemes, the EFSA EU Fora, the EU Fora scheme that is launched every year, and it's open to young and mid-experienced scientists that wants to further develop their risk assessment knowledge, and they would work in one of the EFSA Austin side, so in one of the member states of our partner organization. Then last, the bubble of secondments. So as seconded national experts, you will have the opportunity to work with us, being seconded from your national organization. So in a way, all our secondments are open to employee of public administration, but including also universities. And they would be seconded at EFSA for a period between 6 months up to 4 years. We also have the guest visitor schemes that Bernard and Sergio were referring to. And actually, this is again another flexible way of coming to work with us, either remotely or at EFSA, and work on a specific project or initiative, either as employee of a public organization, but also interesting as a PhD student. So under this scheme, you will have the opportunity of working also on your dissertation and your research project, spending up to 6 months here at EFSA. I just wanted to provide you a brief overview of all the opportunities, but you will find more details about financial conditions, working conditions, and areas that are published in both in our website and in our career page. But I think now what is interesting is really to have a personal experience from our colleagues that are working under one of our different schemes or as staff for EFSA. So I would give the floor back to you, Anne, to introduce our testimonials. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Elena. We will now have the chance to listen to 4 of our colleagues, Alexandra, Matthias, Pauline and Andrea, who will share with you their experience in EFSA. Let's start with our junior colleagues. So hello, Alexandra, and hello, Matthias. Thank you for joining us today. First question, could you please kindly present yourselves? I guess we will go with Alexandra, lady first. I cannot hear you, Alexandra. I don't know if you have any connection problem. I guess we can therefore ask the question to Matthias. Matthias, can you please kindly present yourself?
Sure, thanks, Anne. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So hello everyone, I'm Matthias. I'm from Germany, but actually I bear 2 nationalities, namely a German and a Romanian one. Then briefly, as for my academic background, I first did a bachelor in European Studies in Maastricht. In brief, this is a program consisting of a mix of subjects in social and political sciences, with the EU and Europe as a unifying theme. And thereafter, I completed a master in international laws with a strong focus on the EU law. And this is also, in fact, where I learned about EFSA for the first time. Then let me briefly talk about my professional experience and background. So before becoming an EFSA staff member, I was amongst others a trainee at EFSA. More specifically, I was working in the legal and assurance services unit at EFSA, which is in turn part of the EFSA's business services department. And roughly speaking, my fields of activities, they concerned legal advice to EFSA scientific units, dealing with regulated products, such as the pesticides unit or the GMO unit, legal advice on ethics and staff matters, as well as the processing of applications for public access to documents requests under the dedicated legal framework on reactive transparency, which is the public access to documents regulation. Then finally, as a staff member in the legal and assurance services unit, I'm now actively supporting both dimensions to transparency, so to say. The reactive side, through my continuous involvement in the processing of applications for public access to documents, and the proactive side, so confidentiality decision making, which precedes the proactive publication of documents received by EFSA. And this proactive side has, by the way, been strengthened considerably through the transparency regulation. And finally, I'm also involved in a more transversal legal task, which is the review of complaints or confirmatory applications, which is sort of an administrative appeal regarding EFSA decisions, as well as providing support in pre-litigation and in litigation before the Court of Justice of the EU involving EFSA. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Matthias. Very interesting. I can see that Alexandra is back. Alexandra, same question. Can you please present yourself?
Thank you, Anne. Apologies, everyone, for my technical issues. My name is Aleksandra Lewandowska. Currently, I am a trainee at the Scientific Committee and Emerging Risks Unit at EFSA, and next week I will be starting my new position as a junior scientific officer in the GMO unit. My training is in biotechnology. I finished my master's degree in plant biotechnology in Poland, and then I moved on to start my PhD project in Ghent and Brussels. And I was working on improving plant resistance to stress. So basically what we can do, or what affects plants' adaptation to adverse conditions, such as climate change. And I decided that I don't want to follow an academic path in my career, and I was always interested in policy making and communications. So I decided that it would be a good choice for me to try and get the traineeship at the European institutions. And I was very lucky to get it in 2019 in Directorate General for Research and Innovation. So it was still a directorate which was science oriented. And there I was involved in projects that were related to plastics in circular economy, which was nicely continued in my work for EFSA, because there I also was involved in a project based around circular economy and what are the connections between food safety and those new ways of thinking that are more sustainability based. And also I was involved in the projects that are related to climate change and any other emerging risks that our unit participates in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. I just have another question. How would you say that the traineeship and your current staff position helped you grow both professionally and personally?
First of all, I would say that in many ways, being a scientific officer in EFSA is a very fitting position for a scientist such as myself, but also it forces you to change your way of thinking a little bit and to think broader than you would do as an academic. As an academic, you mostly follow one specific subject, and here in EFSA, you get to be more interdisciplinary. So if your interests are broad and you want to jump from topic to topic, but also to collaborate with specialists on many fields, that's a perfect place. And it certainly teaches you to think a bit broader about many issues, because you get expertise and input from people from different fields. And you develop a lot of teamwork, communication skills, project management skills, and all of those that are related to working with many stakeholders who might have sometimes opposing interests and goals. So you certainly learn a bit of diplomacy in that.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. Matthias, same final question. How would you say that your work at EFSA helped you grow both professionally and personally?
Well, I think there are numerous ways in which my EFSA experience as a trainee, but also as a staff, has helped me grow professionally and personally. Some of these ways I may not even be conscious about, but in a nutshell, I'd say that so personal growth came about mainly through the people I've met at EFSA. So, but also the environment more generally. I think I've really met a lot of very interesting, emphatic and sociable people at EFSA, which helped me expand my horizon, be it intellectually, so by making me venture into the domain of science, more specifically regulatory science, so the interdisciplinary dimension already mentioned by Alexandra. But also making me expand my horizon culturally, so by making me experience a variety of different nationalities, languages, and also perspectives coming with that. Then concerning professional growth, I think it's fair to say that besides having gathered a significant body of legal knowledge specific to EFSA's mission, which I think comes naturally over the years, I've also considerably improved my understanding of the working culture and methods at EFSA, and I dare to say also at public organizations more generally. And here I'm not speaking only about procedures, rules, and formal structures, which are certainly important, but also about how an organization functions in practice and how one can efficiently and constructively navigate through such an organization. I think this is an important professional lesson, which I, even though I'm still a relatively young staff member, consider very valuable and particularly valuable. Yeah.
Thank you both for your honest answers. Let's now listen to two of our more experienced colleagues, Pauline and Andrea. So thank you as well for being here today. Maybe we can start with Andrea. Andrea, can you please kindly present yourself?
Yeah, thank you very much, Anne, and good morning to everybody. So my name is Andrea Terron, I'm Italian, and I'm working in the pesticide peer review unit as a senior mammalian toxicologist. As a scientific background, I'm a veterinary pathologist and toxicologist. And I started my career in the field of toxicology in 1986, working basically for more than 25 years in the pharmaceutical industry as a toxicologist in drug development. So I moved to EFSA. It is now around 10 years, always in the field of pesticides. And I indeed have a lot of interest, scientific interest in the pathology and mechanistic toxicology, toxicity pathway, and of course risk assessment, which is the core business that I'm doing every day.
Thank you, Andrea. So what does the role of senior scientific officer entail? Maybe you can explain your day-to-day work to the public?
Yes, thank you. So as a senior scientific officer, of course, I have several responsibilities and duties. I have some part of my work that is the business as usual. Being in a pesticide peer review unit is part of the business as usual, is mainly dealing with the evaluation of the active substance of the pesticide. I'm of course part of the team because the evaluation of an active substance is a very complex process and also need more than one brain from the scientific point of view. And I'm particularly involved in the assessment of the endocrine disruption properties and in the neurotoxicity part of the profile of the pesticide. But I'm also very much involved in what we call developmental project, is what was mentioned before as mandate from self-task or from the commission, and that's are the let's say the most interesting and engaging part of the work, because I'm dealing and supporting many of the working group of the PPR panel in dealing with new methodology, new risk assessment, very engaging question. That is very interesting and an everyday learning experience. So of course in this you are part of a different team with the panel members and the working group members that has been selected on the panel.
Thank you very much, Andrea. What would you say motivates you in your work?
Yeah, indeed, despite my age, I feel happy nearly every Monday when I go to work, because I'm still in a learning curve, and I have to say that EFSA gives you a fantastic opportunity from this point of view, because you have the opportunity to work with a lot of great scientists, and I would say that you have the opportunity to work with the best scientists in Europe, but also outside Europe. So you have a tremendous opportunity here to expand your network, and that's to me is great. But I have to say, particularly in the work that you have to do in the working group in the developmental process and project, you really learn something every day, and that's to me is fundamental.
Good to hear. Last question for the moment, Andrea. You were working, as you said, in a leading company in the private sector before joining EFSA. After many years working for our agency, what would you say are the main differences between the private and the public European sector?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question for young scientists. In terms of responsibility, of course, working as a public servant, you have to see the responsibility versus safety that is still a responsibility for everyone that is working in the toxicology fields. The responsibility versus safety, you have to look on a different perspective. So you need to look from a much broader perspective. You have to think to the very complex and different scenarios. So that is from the responsibility on safety. From the technical part of view, the critical differences are the one that if you work in the private sector, you are the owner of the data. You produce the data and you manage the data. So you are really the owner of the data. In EFSA and as a public servant, you are doing the risk assessment. So you evaluate the data. So that is the fundamental differences among the two technical work. So basically in one, you produce the data, so you are at the bench. In the second one, you are at the computer, so you work in the assessment of the data with a different perspective.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Let's now listen to the experience of Pauline. So good morning, Pauline, and once again, thank you for joining us today. As all the participants before you, can you please tell us a bit more about yourself?
Sorry, just to unmute myself. Sorry. Hello, so my name is Pauline Adriaanse. I am from the Wageningen University and Research, from the Wageningen Environmental Research Department. So next to my normal work as a senior scientist of pesticides in the environment in the Netherlands, so I am also involved as an external expert for the EFSA. And my current and past work is mainly centered around the modeling of pesticides in the environment, especially surface water for me, and the development of user-friendly shells that enable third parties to use the models. Another part is concerned with the development of scenarios and a tiered approach for registration. I will come back to that later. We also work on field tests of modeling. So we compare measurements in the field to simulations, and especially so for surface water model TOXRA that is being used at EU level, and of which I'm one of the developers. And finally, I also work in the area of linking exposure in the field to ecotoxicological effects observed in the laboratory. Yes.
Thank you, Pauline. So what does the role of an expert entail? In other words, how are you involved in EFSA?
Okay. So I'm involved. I was first involved as an ad hoc expert for specific subjects. So from 2004 to 2006 and later on during 2012 and 13. So then I made contributions to 5 EFSA scientific opinions and one guidance document, the aquatic guidance document that's being used at the moment for the assessment of risks of pesticides in surface waters. And from 2015 onwards, I have been elected as a member of one of the scientific panels of the EFSA, which is the PPR panel, the panel on plant protection products and their residues. And from within this panel, so I contribute to either scientific opinions or guidance documents. Often that also leads to the development of some related software back home in my university in Wageningen. And the opinions, guidance documents, and sometimes also the software may be used for pesticide regulation at EFSA level or at member state level. And it is used by member state authorities and also the international industry. And finally, I would like to stress that my activities for the EFSA are sponsored by the Dutch Ministry of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality. And that enables me to play a very active role within EFSA, so to spend substantial time on the EFSA next to my normal, so in addition to the meetings of EFSA.
Thank you, Pauline.
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit more detail about what you do concretely at EFSA?
Yes. Yeah, so I mainly contribute to risk assessments and by estimating exposure concentrations. So first of all, it was especially aquatic organisms, but later on also amphibians or bees at the moment. We do so by defining EU-wide scenarios so that are realistic worst-case exposure situations, and they aim to define the exposure that cover 90% of occurrence in time and space in the EU. And the aim is so to protect the large majority of all situations in the EU. So not just the average situation, but the 90th percentile in order to be on the safe side. Next to that, we also design tiered risk assessment schemes. So you go from a very simple and fast risk assessment to a more sophisticated and time-consuming risk assessment. And in that way, so risk assessment can be made in a cost-effective way. So you eliminate immediately high-risk compounds, and you only make a more complex risk assessment when it is really needed. And finally, from a content point of view, I also contribute to linking exposure in the field to ecotoxicological effects. So then you should think of how to relate effects observed in laboratory experiments under constant concentration to expected effects in the field where the concentration is generally variable in time. So in a nutshell, that gives a bit an idea, yeah, on in which areas I contribute to the work of EFSA.
Really clear. Thank you, Pauline. I just have a final question. Would you say that your experience at EFSA has enriched you in some way?
Yes, it certainly has. So yeah, what I really like about it is that it is that you work in the applied research area. So you assess risk in the environment before the admission on the market. So that means that the work that you are doing is not disappearing in a drawer of your desk, but it's really contributing to solving problems real life. Another point that I really think is very challenging is that you work in a kind of arena of conflicting interests. So you have the academy, you have industry, you have regulatory bodies, and all have their interests. And as a scientist, so you need to work in that environment in an honest and unbiased way. And I think that's really challenging and interesting. And of course, another point which has already been mentioned is, you work in an international and interdisciplinary team, and that really helps you to get a broader view, and not only in the area of science. So for me, I have moved beyond surface water. I am now also involved in bees, so that's a complete new world for me, exposure. But yeah, there are of course links. But also you have to move beyond the area of only science, or you get more aware of that there is more than science, but also how the political level influences the implementation of science, and also how important it is that you are able to communicate well your science to third parties. And that is also quite challenging, and I like that as well. And finally, as a researcher, working at the EFSA is very good to extend your network for international tenders or projects. So that I think are more or less 4 points that motivate me in my EFSA work.
Thank you very much, Pauline. That was my last question. Thank you once again to all of our colleagues for sharing your experience with us. That was also the end of the first part of our career event. So let's now enter the second part, focused on our open career opportunities, together with James, our head of communication. Back to you, James.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is James Ramsey, and I'm the head of the communication unit here in EFSA. A warm welcome to this career event from my side as well. It's my pleasure now to guide us through the next item on our agenda this morning, which will be a discussion with my colleagues about some of the activities that the units here in EFSA carry out, including those like mine, which don't deal with the business of scientific risk assessment, as well as some insights into the open and soon to be launched vacancies that we have here at EFSA. So we have about 45 minutes for this item on the agenda, the first half of which will be a discussion, a kind of tour de table with the colleagues we have here. And then we've reserved some space at the end of the session as well for a question and answer. So if questions occur to you, please do submit them via the function on Teams, and where possible, where time allows, these will be answered at the end. So that's the plan for the next 45 minutes or so, as I said. Let's begin then, and we'll go straight into the discussion with Karine. Karine, it would be great if you could explain to us briefly what it is that your unit, the Applications Desk unit, does in EFSA, and also spend a few words on what the role that you are recruiting for, scientific coordinator, will entail. Karine.
Okay, thank you, James, and good morning to everyone. I'm Karine Lheureux. I'm head of the Application Desk unit. And I can describe in few words the App Desk unit, James, it's okay, like a description. So I would say the first aim of the unit is to centralize all the applications that are coming in EFSA related to regulated product. So a central point to standardize the process, to harmonize the process, to ensure the quality. And a regulated product can be a feed additive, a food additive, a novel food, a pesticide. These are regulated products. The second aspect of the unit is to support the stakeholders to develop the best possible quality of application. So how to interact, explain the guidance, explain the process, and make an understanding of what is expected from EFSA. So these are the aim of the unit. Now, we have this call which is ongoing as scientific coordinator within the area of regulated products. So 3 aspects perhaps to highlight for this role. It's a role of coordination, monitoring, planning of application for regulated product, but also of services. The services we are providing to the business operator, to the member state, the interaction we have. So a key aspect of a coordination role. But there's also a scientific role. Scientific and technical support is key in this unit or in the unit that will be using this profile. And as a front office to the stakeholders, you need to have a strong scientific background to understand the requirement of the guidance and how to use them. And then there's also the aspect of implementing the transparency regulation. So EFSA is very impacted with the transparency regulation. We have new tools to use, we have new services to implement. So there's an aspect here of the coordinator to be involved. 3 points to highlight on this profile.
Great, thank you very much, Karine. That's all very clear, and you kept within your time limit as well. So thanks for that. Just to remind those who are listening, the deadline for the application here is the 7th of June. So please do consider that if the role that Karine explained there is of interest to you. Okay, let's keep going. So we have enough time at the end also for the Q&A, and we'll turn now to Andrea, who works in EFSA's unit for genetically modified organisms. And Andrea plays an important coordination and linking role between the unit and the external experts who sit on EFSA's scientific panel for genetically modified organisms. So Andrea, if you would please tell us about the open vacancy we have for Scientific Officer Agronomy in the GMO unit and what he or she can expect to do. Andrea.
Yes, sure. Thanks, James. And good morning to all the participants. I'm Andrea Gennaro and I'm an agronomist from the GMO unit, scientific officer there. And a few words about the unit to say what we do. So in Europe, the GMOs needs a risk analysis and a regulatory approval before entering into the EU market. And EFSA is responsible for the risk assessment of these products and informs the risk managers on any possible risk the use of GMOs may pose to human, animal health and environment. So the assessment is published in a form of a scientific opinion that you can find on the EFSA website. Probably you had a look at these opinions, so you can familiarize with the content and the topics we are discussing about. And the scientific opinions are elaborated by the members of the GMO panel, and these are constituted by external experts. We just learned their experience in the previous session, but they are not part of the EFSA staff. So here the call is for EFSA staff. And in particular, we are looking for candidates with experience in agronomy, in characterization of plants, and with experience in environmental risk assessment. So these are the key expertise the candidates should have. In particular, they should be familiar with the way how to run field trials, how to assess plants, how to evaluate the representativeness of sites, how to collect data, how to analyze data. And in relation to the environmental risk assessment, for sure, there should be experience with the environmental risk assessment of GMOs. It is important to mention that these are two of the main pillars of the risk assessment of GMOs. But in the unit, there is an heterogeneous scientific environment. So it's essential the capacity to have exchanges with other scientists, with other different competencies, such as the molecular biologists, bioinformaticians, toxicologists, colleagues with experience in human and animal nutrition, and so on and so forth. I would like also to mention that in the GMO unit, this is a particularly exciting moment because there are a lot of technological innovation in this area. And the unit is now tightly interacting with the European Commission to identify similarities and differences between, let's say, the classical GMOs and the new genomic techniques such as genome editing and synthetic biology. So this is to say that the activities in the unit is not only to assess the products, but also to interact with stakeholders on the development of new guidance and new documents. So, James, to focus directly on your question, the tasks of the candidates would be to contribute to the preparation of drafting of scientific outputs and reports, monitoring scientific and regulatory developments related to the area I just mentioned, contribute to the development of guidance and methodological documents to provide information on legislative, policy and scientific aspects in these fields, and for sure to ensure good communication with the European Commission and with the stakeholders. It is also clear that it is important to have a good capacity to communicate and present scientific outputs to the public. So, in conclusion, if you are a scientist with experience in the field of agronomy and environmental risk assessments, and if you want to have an experience in a dynamic and growing European agency and in a multicultural environment, for sure, this is a call you should consider. And back to you, and thanks to all of you. So, James, this is my contribution.
Thank you very much, Andrea. You make that sound very appealing indeed. If I were a scientist myself, I might apply. You mentioned this particularly important interesting time for new genomic techniques as well. So that's obviously something that occupies a lot of the public and political debate in Brussels and across Europe. And we have a link and obviously work to inform those discussions and decisions that are taken. Yeah, an exciting area to be involved with at EFSA, an exciting unit to work with. Okay, let's keep going. And now I'll turn to an aspect of our scientific activities that is really critical, and that's the management and analysis of data and evidence. And we have a unit in EFSA, the Evidence Management Unit, which carries out this work among several other tasks. So we have Mary with us today, Mary Gilsonen, who's the head of the Evidence Management Unit. And I'd ask you, Mary, to begin with, if you could just talk to us about what your unit does and the support it provides to other parts of the organization. And then we'll come on to the open positions that you have available. Mary.
Thank you, James, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm really happy to be here today to give you a flavour of what we do in the Evidence Management Unit at EFSA. James mentioned my name is Mary Gilsonen and I'm the head of the unit. So what does the unit do? In a nutshell, we're responsible for the collection, the validation, standardization, management, and visualization of much of EFSA's scientific data that underpin our scientific work. So this means that we work very closely with all the other scientific units in EFSA, and it's very nice because we get exposure to many, many different scientific areas through data. What type of data do we collect? Mainly, we collect data on what people eat across Europe, levels of harmful substances in food, levels of beneficial substances of food, you name it. We do the full spectrum of data used to underpin our scientific assessments. We also help out with the, Karine mentioned the implementation of the transparency regulation, and that's about how to better manage data coming in through industry dossiers. So we get a lot of exposure across all of the units in EFSA through our work with data. We also work very closely with data providers in the member states. We work with hundreds of data providers and we collect about 30 gigabytes of data every year. So we're dealing with very, very large volumes of data that all has to be managed properly and managed well. And that's why we're always looking for candidates who love working with data.
Great, thanks, Mary. That's clear. Maybe you could just expand then a bit on the specific profile that we have on the screen here. So the vacancy for data scientist and any other soon to be launched vacancies you have going forward.
Okay, yes, we've recently launched a new call for a data scientist. The closing date is next month in June. We're particularly looking for candidates with a scientific background who are very comfortable working with large data sets, who love exploring data, coding data, problem solving with data. Or also, we're also looking for candidates who are very, very good with coding and data, and who can very quickly learn the scientific background. So some profiles, the really good profiles for this call are the junction between science and coding and analysis of data. The candidate will be working with, across several EFSA units, dealing with several types of data, dealing with data providers in member states, dealing with our IT colleagues, dealing with the European Commission, and really because we are managing such large volumes of data and growing, we need to manage that in the most efficient and effective way as possible. And so we're looking for, very highly data literate colleagues who love learning, love coding, and can pick up scientific areas very quickly and help us manage the data that for the agency in the most efficient and effective way.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, so if that sounds like you, then do check out the call for data scientist. We've covered up to now, we've covered scientific profiles. So we've had the scientific coordinator, scientific officer, we've a data scientist as well. The last three open or soon to be launched vacancies that we'll talk about now take us away a bit from the business of science, and will hopefully give you an insight into some of the other profiles and experience that we need at EFSA. So let's start with you, Serena. Can I see you on the screen? Yes, you're there. No, Serena, are you with us?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm with you.
But I trust you're here.
Hello. Yes.
So,
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Great.
So please, Serena, talk to us a bit about what being an HR professional means at EFSA, and specifically what we're looking for in an HR business partner.
Thank you, James, and thanks everyone for being here today. I'm really happy to be here, same as Mary was highlighting. So being part of EFSA as an HR professional basically means being part of a team of very committed and energetic professionals, and being part specifically of a hub for partnering the organization on HR matters that's stemming from the full talent management, let's say, cycle. So the aim is basically to partner the organization in achieving its objectives, and particularly by selecting, developing, engaging, and retaining the key talents that are in line with our EFSA's values. Being an HR professional at EFSA means also being exposed to a variety of topics that stems on all the value chain, let's say, of HR, and this means also being able to expand and to grow in your professional life as an HR professional at EFSA. This means also being exposed to a lot of colleagues and different businesses, so from the business services to the scientific domain, of course, and the communication part. And this means a lot in terms of learning from others, learning on the job, and growing on your HR, let's say, development as HR professional. So this is, in a nutshell, what you could find in being an HR professional at EFSA. We are indeed looking for an HR partner, and on the role, I must say it's a very interesting role and complex in a way, but with the positives of the complexity, because you need to be able to navigate the complexity of the businesses that are different and complex in the organization, to linking the dots between what the business requires, and be able to advise the managerial community and staff, and also to have a helicopter view on how HR policies and HR actions could support the organization in achieving its goals. From the point of view of the HR partner, you are a key enabler in all this, and the key energies, you put them into the partnering relationship with the business, with the managers and the staff. And being an HR partner means also to know very well the business, and try and be curious about that as much as you can, to understand also the intricacies that are not really super clear maybe from the onset and from the surface. And it means also supporting the business with the acute analysis also from what you can get from how the organization is running. As HR business partner, we oversee the performance management of staff and managers. Of course, we contribute to the onboarding of our talents, and we contribute to the retention and engagement of them. And we also offer career counseling possibilities. Now, coming to the opening that we have, it's a great opportunity for people who are interested in the HR domain, who have background in business partnering, talented in change management and proficient and curious also to the world of analytics, for example. It's very key, the development that we want to bring to the organization in terms of supporting the business through analytics. So this is a key aspect for the role. And of course, same as I was saying before, what does this mean being an HR professional at EFSA? Is being part of a team. So team playing and energy to be part of a team and playing this game, exciting game in support of the organization together, is a key asset as well. I hope I covered everything. James, up for questions, if any.
Thank you, Serena. I think you gave a very good account, explained a bit the complexity and the challenge of the roles. I mean, obviously, in my position as well as head of unit, I work closely with our HR business partner, and I always look on in admiration at how you go about your business. Like you say, you have to keep one eye on the corporate side of things, one eye on serving and helping the managerial community, right, and obviously supporting staff members as well. So absolutely, it's a challenging role, but one that I'm sure offers lots of areas for professional growth. So if that's of interest to you, please do check out the vacancy notice on our website. And now we'll pass to Dirk, who heads up our legal and assurance services unit here in EFSA. EFSA's legal function provides essential services to many different parts of the business. But given the specific nature of our work as a regulatory agency, these services may differ slightly from what you might expect compared to other organizations. So Dirk, could you expand a bit on this and then go on to explain what it is that you'll be looking for when you launch the upcoming call for legal officer?
Thank you, James. I'm very happy to do that, and good morning. So indeed, yes, as the LA unit, as we call it in short, legal and assurances, we basically have two different ways of working. On the one hand, we're obviously working, as you would classically expect, as an advisor to the House on legal matters. So sometimes I call it slightly dismissively a help desk. So of course we receive questions from our colleagues and we will answer them. And this can span from questions about the food law, the sectoral law, on which we operate our opinions, but also to staff regulations, personal data protection, ethical questions. So that's where we operate, I would say, in rather a classic manner, as you would expect from a legal unit. One thing which I think is important to note there, and I tend to say that to young people who are interested in working for us, is that it's a mistake, of course, to believe that at the EFSA, which is a scientific organization, we do change the face of food law. That's not what we do. We operate the food law, so we are actually the ones who implement it, but we are not the ones, of course, who are drafting it or who are changing it. That's something which the Commission would do on our behalf. So I think it's important to understand yourself as a lawyer and a scientific organization as part of the background support which actually enables the science. So that's our job from the regulatory point of view, to make sure that our scientific outputs are actually produced in line with the rules as they stand. But we have a second leg in which actually we are not only the advisors in the legal unit, but we are also basically taking decisions on behalf of the European Food Safety Authority. And that is mainly in the area of confidentiality, where when it comes to reactive transparency, and lawyers will very well know the regulation 1049 of 2001, or under the new transparency regulation for proactive transparency, it's actually delegated to the legal unit to take decisions on confidentiality, whether certain data sets are to be maintained confidential or not. So here we are dealing a lot with IP rights, obviously with proprietary rights, and such. So this is an area where we're not advising, but where we need to take decisions alone. And that's quite a different kind of task from the classic lawyer support task to people who actually own the processes. Now, what are we looking for if we look at new recruits? And again, the call, as you put here rightly on the slide, is not yet out, so I cannot be very decisive on in which area that would be. But there's some generic aspects which are super important, which we're always looking for any young professional that we're recruiting. And these are mainly perhaps fourfold. we're definitely looking mainly for analytical skills. So that's definitely a talent that we want the person to bring with them to us. That's nothing that we can teach. That's the ability to identify legal risks, to describe them properly, and also, of course, to be able to mitigate them, meaning to ring fence them and to propose solutions. This analytical skill is something which clearly candidates need to bring to the table because that's something which we cannot generate in-house for them. Based on that and linked to that analytical skill, obviously we need to have a knowledge of the EU legal environment, but there I see sometimes with applicants also to be very focused on already the specificities of the EFSA environment. And there I want to say, of course, it is helpful to know laws which are applicable to EFSA, and it is an asset. However, as important as that is a profound understanding of the administrative law principles that actually generating that are behind these specific sectoral laws. So actually a quality, a capacity which is much more abstract and much more general than what you would expect from food law as such. We need people who are able to juggle around with these values, who can compare administrative law values and who can judge which one is more important in this context. So this is really a quality and knowledge that we are looking for very strongly. A third aspect that is absolutely essential for us is obviously the drafting skills. And here we're mainly talking English. French, because of the case law, does play a role. Italian, because of course our location does play a role. However, mainly it is all about English. So we need people who can draft in a final manner, in a concise and precise manner. That is, of course, for lawyers, you can expect, you're not surprised, a very, very important tool. So the English level is very high. And then as a last aspect that we're looking for in young recruits is obviously a quality to communicate these legal aspects in a certain manner, because what you need to realize is that as a lawyer in a scientific organization, it's actually a very lonely place due to the fact that, of course, it is very difficult for scientists to understand the legal concepts as much as it is for us very difficult to understand the scientific context on a regular basis. So these are expertises which are working together, but which are not necessarily mutual understandable. So what you need to be able, not somebody who gives a long speech and basically is able to present the stuff according to their own liking, but you need to be able to communicate legal concepts in a way that others can grasp the main aspects of this one. So you need to collect the people where they are. And this ability to in a concise manner actually communicate this risk identification and the mitigation to people who are not by definition lawyers, but potentially need to take decisions based on that. That's also a very, very strong quality that we are looking for in every young recruit. So this is basically the coaching I could do for future people interested in working as legals in this place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dirk. I think you call it coaching. That's very good advice. So to the people listening, if you're if you're interested in applying as a legal officer in the future, pay close attention to what Dirk has said. It's a rare insight, I think, into what he's looking for as a hiring manager here in EFSA. In the interest of time, I won't come back to Dirk with a follow-up question. Perhaps there'll be time for that with the Q&A. I just wanted to talk briefly about a position that we have available in my unit, the communication unit. That has a deadline, a very close deadline, in fact. So if you're interested in this one, you need to act quickly. The deadline for this is tomorrow. It's for communication officer in the communication unit. I'll tell you briefly what the unit does. So in very simple terms, we're responsible for ensuring that the complex and technical scientific advice that we produce in the scientific side of the house is translated into a language that can be understood, digested, and where relevant, acted on by our different target audiences. And our target audiences vary considerably. So starting from the European citizen, if you like, in the broadest terms, to more informed and specialized audiences, including the media, stakeholders, policymakers, and the scientific community, among others. So we have a relatively large resource at our disposal, actually, within the communication unit. So we have it's a large team, approximately 40 people, with functions specializing in digital communication, so social media, multimedia, data visualization. We have a function for media relations, scientific publishing, web management, internal communications, social science and research, analytics, among others. And we're in the process of recruiting at the moment, as I said, for a communication officer. This is an exciting role, really at the heart of the work we have planned in the future for communicating directly with European consumers about food safety. And colleagues before me have talked a bit about the transparency regulation. Since this has come into effect, there has been a strong focus on improving the way that the risk analysis process and risk assessment, risk communication finds its way to directly to the lay audiences, so European consumers. And as such, we're looking for people with experience with digital comms, so digital natives, as we call them. So if you're using social media and other digital channels in a personal or professional environment, that is certainly an asset. And we're also looking for people who have experience in managing large-scale networked communication campaigns or projects, essentially, because the way we're moving in the future will be very much alongside our partners and colleagues at a European and national level. So working in this kind of networked, integrated way. That, in a nutshell, describes what we're looking for in the role of communications officer. There's more information in the vacancy notice on the website. So again, if that sounds interesting to you, please do check that out. And remember, as I said, the deadline is for tomorrow. So with that, I would stop there. Thank you very much to my colleagues who have introduced all the open positions we have at the moment, including as well as some of the roles that are soon to be launched, and for giving us more information about the work of the different units here. I'll pass back to Simon now, who will talk us through the Q&A, if I'm not mistaken. Simon.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, James, for your moderation. We have received quite some interesting questions from the audience. The first one is for our colleague Karin. And the question is, we had colleagues speaking from different units, from the GMO unit of EFSA, data unit, HR unit, legal unit, communication unit. How are those units interlinked within EFSA? Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, Simon, thank you. Very important to explain the way of working, because it's a big matrix. So there's position for a unit where we have tasks that are defined, but we are interacting. And if I take the example of AppDesk, we are interacting with all the colleagues that have been presented today. So for example, we do interact with the GMO unit when we have an application related to an application for GMO. We also liaise with our colleague from data, in particular now with the quality of data of the transparency regulation. We liaise regularly with UCAP, and we are delighted to have their support, and we liaise daily also with legal and communication. So important to mention that all these positions are not in isolation in a unit, but it's really a collaborative work when you start working in EFSA.
Thank you, Karin. I also received another question for you, is if you could further explain the relevance of the scientific background for your open position as a scientific coordinator.
Okay, so the scientific coordinator will need to assess the content of a dossier or work together with partners which have a scientific background. They will contribute to the analysis of the data. They will contribute to the drafting of guidance documents, the interpretation of the data. So they will need a scientific background that will be able to be expanded in an area to be able to do the work. So there's a lot of, as I was mentioning, now a lot of technical and scientific support, but there's also the collection of data, the evaluation of data to prepare guidance document or scientific output.
Thank you, Karin, very much for answering the questions. We've received one question for Andrea, and the question is as follows. As a soil scientist, I'd like to ask if you do analysis of soil and plants, and if EFSA is in need, or your unit is in need of agricultural engineers.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Actually, EFSA does not perform this type of analysis. These are data required to the applicants, and in accordance to specific guidance, the guidance on agronomic and phenotypic characterization of GM plants, the applicant is required to provide this data. So for sure, if the candidate has expertise in the assessment of this type of information, is definitely a relevant asset for sure. Yes. So we do assess this information that is needed to essentially understand if the sites where the field trials were conducted were sufficiently diverse and adequate for the crop that was cultivated on the specific site. About the question on the profile, yes, it's definitely compatible with the call that is currently out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
very much, Andrea, for the question. We have two for Mary. If you could choose your ideal candidate, which would be for you the ideal studies and background of the future data scientist?
That's difficult to answer in one sentence. The ideal person, I think, would be somebody with a good scientific background, relevant to EFSA's remit, with very good experience managing and analyzing and dealing with large data sets within the remit of EFSA. Of course, it's not a requirement that they have dealt with data sets within the remit of EFSA. It is beneficial, but it's not the requirement. What's important is that candidates can have an appetite for learning and pick up the job fast and be very comfortable with data.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Mary. Another question: how important are project management skills for the position?
Well, in EFSA, we deal with a lot of projects apart from our daily day-to-day work. We also deal with manage grant and procurement projects with entities in the member states, and we also have to work to strict deadlines, in many cases legal deadlines. So it is important that candidates applying have some demonstrable experience to be able to work towards deadlines and deliver for deadlines, be able to identify and mitigate risks, etc., etc. But it is not a requirement that you have a certification, for example, in project management. That's not a requirement. But, you know, to be able to demonstrate that you are able to, you know, manage a project and deliver it on time is quite important, because the nature of our work, we're like a junction between other units in EFSA, and the nature of our work is that we could be dealing with several projects and several activities simultaneously. So time management is really important, and being able to manage workload and time is very important.
Thank you very much, Mary, for answering the question. The next question is for Serena, give a testimony of the HR business partner role. And there is a question about what is the importance of HR analytics in your role as a HR business partner?
Thank you, Simon, and many thanks to whom has brought forward this question. Actually, it's a very interesting one, because we are in the process of improving and having more and more acquaintance with the use of analytics in the role and in-house. We aim for the use that we do so far basically is the aim is to collect all the sets of information that we normally process in our daily work in a more structured manner so that they could tell us something. And when I mean something is basically giving us insights on our workforce, for example, how our workforce is constituted and how this can be leading to future projection on how the population is evolving, and as a consequence, use this data to elaborate strategies or actions that can help us, for example, to develop a more inclusive workforce or a more diverse workforce. We use HR analytics also in the area of performance. We scan what are the trends and the patterns and what these can tell us in terms of what are the actions that contribute to the higher retention rate or higher engagement rate. We usually also apply this mindset, which is not only HR analytics, but the data analysis, let's say, mindset, also to scan the results of our surveys to understand what does this mean in terms of what's the state of the organization in terms of engagement, for example. And on a more broader perspective, in the role of the HR partner, being acquainted and curious about how information can be put together in terms of data and how to analyze them, it's very useful to support the decision making and also to have this future-oriented approach on trying and predict what would happen if everything stays like that and what could happen if we implement new actions and new initiatives in the various remit the analytics will be collected. And this is also very useful in terms of the talents that we bring in, because, for example, we can analyze the situation in terms of nationalities, in terms of profiles, in terms of background, and all these contributes to put in place HR, let's say, policies and decisions that can be, in the end, contributing to the achievement of EFSA's goal in terms of what are the talents that serve our organization.
Thanks a lot, Serena, for answering the question. We have another question for Dirk, our head of the legal unit. So Dirk, if I may ask you, what are the biggest challenges for the legal unit in the upcoming years?
Thank you. Yeah, I think the biggest challenge do come potentially from the new law. I mean, the whole founding regulation, as you know, of EFSA has been rewritten and has given us a couple of new tasks. And I think it is our challenge and privilege of being allowed to steer the House in interpreting these provisions in the right way. Huh? And there I'm, of course, again, inter alia referring to the future confidentiality decision-making that we need to take, basically from an organization that didn't have to take any administrative acts with direct effects on third parties ever. We will become an organization that has to take these kind of administrative acts, I think, on a daily basis, if we calculate the figures. So that's quite a cultural change. It's a legal change, but it's also a cultural change because you need to generate the capacities in order to be able to actually take such decisions which impact on proprietary rights of externals. So that's a huge shift in pattern of what EFSA is. I think it was actually described by our management also that finally also the word authority in European Food Safety Authority gets a new meaning because of this impact we actually have on people in a direct manner. But then also linked to that, obviously there's a growth in the House. EFSA is getting bigger, which also from a legal point of view always means there's new processes linked to the staff regulation which need to be processed. So there's also with a bigger organization simply the everyday the business as usual requests are actually multiplying. So also there we simply see a capacity issue where we need to grow, and that's also where this post obviously is going to link to in order to be able actually to address that. Last but not least, the new law also brings in, of course, new processes which are not just only linked to confidentiality and transparency, but which are also linked more to the previous steps of the production cycle of scientific opinions, like pre-submission advices, like further public consultation. And also there, we need to learn to apply the law that we have received a couple of months ago by the legislator. And that's going to be a super exciting time to actually, together with our stakeholders, and not against our stakeholders, but together with our stakeholders, to find the right meaning and effectiveness of these new provisions in order actually to, in the end, live up to what the legislator wanted from us, which is more transparency and a more sustainable food safety system. So I definitely would put the finger on actually what we have applicable in the House since the 27th of March, if you ask me about the main big challenges in the legal unit for the future.
Thank you very much, Dirk, for elaborating on that. And the final question is for James. James, there is a question from the audience on which skills do you need, both from a technical and behavioral point of view, to be successful in the new open position in your unit?
Thanks, Simon, and thanks for the question. So technical skills, I would say we're looking for someone who lives, breathes, drinks digital communications. So if you have experience with using social media, if you're experienced with multimedia, if you're experienced with data visualization or using other digital channels in a professional, ideally in a professional environment, that already puts you in a good position. So there's an element of understanding, of experience in using digital communication tools and channels that is very important for the role. And we are also looking for candidates who have experience in, well, essentially, it's what we're talking about is project management in a communications context. We call these campaigns, but a little bit like Mary was explaining, you know, we need someone who is able to reach a goal with the buy-in of many different partners and stakeholders in a systematic and structured way, and is able to work through a campaign from start to finish. And typically, when we talk about communication campaigns, we're talking about Europe-wide, EU-wide, integrated campaigns that we carry out with our partners, so risk assessment organizations, risk communicators in the member states, that we carry out in cooperation with the European Commission, that we may carry out in the future with stakeholders or other partners. And we're talking large scale as well. So these are, these are campaigns which would feature in media and on channels in various different member states at the same time, involving lots of different moving parts. So if someone who's able to bring value to the strategic development of a campaign, and then is able to take the reins and really implement and lead the campaign, this, in fact, is a very important skill and something that we're looking for as well with the communication officer. In terms of behavioral competencies, well, there we would look for someone certainly who has an ability to connect easily with people at different levels. So there's an important element of internal communications or internal advocacy, if you like, when we're dealing with communications. We work closely, as Karine said, with all the departments, basically all the units in EFSA. So it's important that you're able to establish relationships easily. And of course, you should be communication should come naturally to you, whether it's in written communication, oral communication, and so on. So that would give you a bit of a flavor of the type of technical and behavioral competencies we're looking for with the role.
Yeah. Thank you very much, James, for having answered the question. There are several other questions from the audience, but please rest assured, everybody, we will come back to all your questions. You will receive an answer from us. And now I'll pass the floor back to our presenter, Anne, for the next section.
Thank you very much, Simon. If you're interested to join EFSA, what do you need to do to make your application stand out? Let's now listen to a few tips from our colleagues, Rana and Elena from the talent selection team.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Anne, and thanks all the colleagues that clarified and went through the different open career opportunities in details. So as Anne was mentioning, I'd like to now take you through EFSA application processes. So what do you need to do to submit your application for EFSA? You have to connect, of course, on our EFSA career website. So all applications have to be done on our website. And you have mainly 3 ways to be notified and to remain updated about the different open career opportunities. Either you decide to regularly visit our EFSA career page. You can also register to the job alerts to receive also more targeted vacancies fitting your profile. So up to you to tick the different fields that you are interested in. Otherwise, you can also follow our LinkedIn page on which we very often post our latest opening. So how does this work? Once you created your account, you will be able actually to fill an application form. And it can be updated at any time before the application deadline, of course. So it is reusable also for any other application you would like to submit. Actually, the only thing that you will have to update, of course, is the pre-screening questionnaire together with your motivation letter. That will change accordingly. The application form consists in your personal information. You should detail your studies, your working experience, and your responses to the pre-screening questionnaire. If I had few tips to share with you, so you should know that EFSA is interested in how your profile fits the advertised position. You should actually read very carefully the questions and fill in all the fields, highlighting your best achievements and how it would contribute to the advertised role. And of course, we stand ready to provide you with any information. You can contact us, and don't hesitate to contact us if you have any question regarding a specific vacancy. So next slide. Okay. So now, concretely speaking, this is how your application form will look like in case you did not apply yet to one of our vacancies. You can actually save it and go back to it at a later stage before the closing of the call, or decide to submit it all at once, because our tool, which is called Taleo, allows indeed some freedom to its users. So it is quite flexible. So next slide. Okay, here is a glimpse of the main steps of the recruitment process you would go through. So I hope this will help you demystify it a bit, and I hope I will be able to offer you a bit of a backstage overview of the application process. So first of all, you have the eligibility and CV screening. Then, if you are shortlisted to the next step, you will be invited by email to a written test and to a recorded online interview. You will actually receive a link that will enable you to connect at a specific time. Everything will be mentioned in the email, and to sit the written test and to as well submit your recorded interview. If you are shortlisted to this step, you will be able to be invited actually to the live interview. It will be a moment to interact and exchange with the selection board through a series of technical and behavioral questions that are all, of course, very well detailed in the vacancy. And this is also the right opportunity for you to ask actually any question you would have regarding the role you have applied to. And also the selection process details, because the selection board and myself, if I was a recruiter of any of my colleagues from the talent selection team, will be very glad to respond to it. And then, if I hope you are successful to this step, to the live interview step, you will be notified also still by email that you have been placed on a talent pool. So what is this talent pool actually? This talent pool will remain available to all EFSA units that would have similar business needs until the 31st December of the year following the closing of the call. So to clarify a bit, for example, if a call would close now, the related established talent pool would be open until 31st December 2022. And candidates placed on that reserve list have no ranking. It is then up to the hiring recruiter to actually select according to the specific profile of the candidate and the business needs. And finally, as a last step, if you are selected this time for the position, you will be, of course, offered the position and notified accordingly by email. So all these recruitment process that I went through with you now are all carried out online. All you need is a good connection, a good computer, and your talent. I will pass it on now to my colleague Elena, who will provide you with precious tips on how to get the most out of your application. Thank you.
Thank you, Rana, and good afternoon to all. So let's focus now on your application and the key elements to be included in it. The eligibility requirements are stated in all our vacancies. General requirements are checked during the CV screening phase, but be careful, these are general requirements for staff positions, so for contract agents and temporary agents. Eligibility criteria are not the same for other categories. For example, the EU citizenship, it's not a requirement for the trainship calls. In relation to the physical fit, medical visits are organized in order to receive the confirmation of the hire. This happens after the offer is sent to the candidate and before she formally becomes a staff. In relation to the EU language, in EFSA, English is the official working language. This is why your English will be evaluated throughout all the process. The second language can be your mother tongue or any other EU language. Let's move to the qualification now. In almost all the vacancies, the university degree is needed, as you can see in the slide. The university degree is in general requested in the areas related to the activities the role intakes. For example, a social scientist vacancy, this is a code that we published some months ago on our website, required a university diploma in anthropology, sociology, and psychology. Depending on the seniority of the position published, candidates can be also requested to have minimum numbers of years of experience. For example, a temporary agent 86 requires 3 years of professional experience to be added to the university degree also required. So make sure you meet all the requirements before apply to the call. So we can go to the next slide. Here you can see an example of an open call where information are stated on the eligibility and qualifications. This is a scientific coordinator vacancy notice that we discussed before. You will see under eligibility criteria the general requirements and the qualifications. And as you can see under qualifications, you have the university degree and no years of experience are requested here, as this call is for an officer position, sorry. So on the next slide, technical competencies and behavioral competencies are always mentioned on our vacancy notice, and they are the basis of our selection process, meaning the ones that will be evaluated during our phases, which are the CV screening, the video interview, the written test, and the final interview, as Rana mentioned to you before. Technical competencies refer to your professional experience. You can see here, for example, biochemistry, drafting scientific reports, biology. Behavioral competencies refer more to your soft skill. You can see here, for example, deal with ambiguity, focus on stakeholder needs. When applied to EFSA vacancies, you will find in the application 2 sections to be completed, as mentioned already by Rana. One is related to your experience and credential, where you need to place all the information related to your education and working experience. For example, the name of the employer, the duration of the contract. The second section contains a questionnaire where you are requested to provide examples from your professional experience. They are usually linked to the selection criteria, and here here it is crucially important to be specific in your answers. So give details, specify the situation, give the possibility to the selection board member to evaluate your experience at their best. So on the next slide, we are discussing, I don't see the new slide, the star one. Anyway, EFSA is performing a competency-based interview, which means that when asking you the interview question, we will ask to provide example from your professional experience. Question may refer to technical criteria or behavioral criteria that we discussed in the previous slides. So technical questions are used to know if you have the required skills for the position you apply. Might be a professional experience, but also knowledge. An example of technical question could be, could you please tell us about a time when you wrote scientific reports? What challenges did you encounter? And behavioral questions are used to evaluate how you handle specific type of situation. An example can be, tell me about a time when you had to perform a task under a lot of stress. So always keep in mind to prepare your examples. Think about the details and the complexity of your examples. It can be helpful to use the STAR technique. So when you are preparing your example and also when you are answering the question in front of the interview panel, think about the specific situation S, explain your task T, elaborate on the specific action A, and took actions, and then close with the final results R. If you have not encountered a specific situation that allows you to answer to the question, try to imagine what you would do in such a context. Then be concise and engage with the panel. Think of your value proposition, so why the board has to choose you instead of another candidate, why you are the best candidate, which is your added value. Try to convince, try to sell yourself. Always bear in mind that the competencies we are checking in this phase are the ones mentioned in the vacancy notice, so you can well prepare yourself. So what else? You have now all the necessary information to start inserting your data in the EFSA recruitment system, Taleo. Enjoy your exercise and good luck with your application and maybe a career in EFSA. Back to Anne. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elena and Rana. Really clear. Let's now listen to our HR colleagues, Paola, Federica and Tomai, who will talk a bit more about the working conditions and the working culture at EFSA.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paola. I work as an HR specialist. So Anna, Rana and Elena has provided you an overview on the recruitment process. Let's suppose you have been recruited and you have to start a contract. We offer 5 years contract to both typology of statutory staff that we have in EFSA. We have contract agents and temporary agents. You apply to different calls. So when you apply to a call, you see what kind of typology, what kind of contract you can be offered. Anyway, to both categories, we offer the same length of contract. So one initial contract of 5 years, which can be renewed for another period of 5 years. The second renewal would be for indefinite period. So after 10 years, you could be for indefinite period. The salary, so the remuneration. The remuneration is based on 3 criteria. We have the basic salary, the allowances that you can be granted, and the deduction of taxes. The basic salary is linked to the grade you have applied to. So depending on the seniority of the grade you have applied, you have a basic salary. The years of experience you have acquired prior to the start of the contract can also slightly increase the basic salary. Then we have the allowances. The allowances are granted on the basis of your personal situation. So we take into consideration the nationality, the residence, the family composition. So all these criteria could lead to, for example, expatriation allowance, which is equal to the 16% plus of your basic salary, the child allowance. So for each child, you could receive more or less 400 euro per month. the household allowance or the education allowance. For each child, depending on the studies and the age, you could receive an education allowance. The education allowance is paid until the age of 26. All these conditions and the allowances are also well described in the call. And then we have the taxes. So, of course, we have to deduct the taxes. The taxes are paid mainly to contribute to the EU pension scheme and the health insurance. So in this period during which you are working for EFSA or other institutions, you will pay taxes on the EU scheme. You will not pay national contribution. So you are not, your salary is not subject to national taxes, but European taxes. In EFSA, now I give you a bit an overview on working conditions. So in EFSA, we apply a flexible approach to working time. Now we are in a difficult situation due to COVID, the pandemic, so most of our staff is teleworking 100%, but we hopefully will go back to work in EFSA building. And anyway, usually staff can telework for a maximum of 50% of the working week, so quite good. If you have children, you can be granted maximum 1 year of parental leave for each child until the age of 12. And then, of course, also part-time is also a possibility in EFSA. We try to provide as much support as possible to newcomers. So from the moment a candidate has accepted an offer and has decided to join EFSA, we lead the process. We support them as much as possible. We support in the collection of documents because there is documentation to be provided. We support through our relocation service in house hunting. We also support newcomers with local administration, mainly if they don't speak Italian. So we accompany them to local administration, banks, offices, or we support them by email. In Parma, we also try to create an environment that is easy for newcomers. We have an European school with 3 sessions. We have Italian session, English session, and French session. The European school is in Parma, so very, very close also to EFSA building. Kids are welcome in the school from the age of 4 until the baccalaureate. And the school is free for EFSA staff, so EFSA pays the tuition registration fees. And posts for kids of EFSA staff are always available. So independently from the moment you decide, the moment of the year, the scholastic year, you decide to join EFSA, you could anyway subscribe, enroll your kids to the European school. We try also to support newcomers with the integration in Parma, in the community of Parma, through Italian language courses for newcomers. We offer this possibility also to partners and spouses of newcomers. And then now with the COVID, it's a bit more difficult, but we have a lot of groups in EFSA, leisure and sport. We organize a lot of leisure and sport activities. So we facilitate a bit the integration also in this way. So I have concluded. I pass the floor to Federica Romanazzi. Thank you.
Thank you, Paola. So Paola has explained to you the contract conditions. As HR specialists, the HR partners are there for staff to support them on anything related to career. First of all, we make sure that newcomers get integrated in the team and they have all the needed information for the job. And this is particularly relevant during this full remote setting. There is a probationary period of 9 months, and its assessment is made in terms of efficiency, abilities, and conduct in performing the assigned tasks. The probationary period foresees a mid-term review to check progress and exchange feedback and the final report. We're here to make sure that the set objectives are smart and clear for all, and to support staff on any doubt or difficulty, but also eager to listen and get feedback to improve this onboarding experience. Every year, individual objectives are set for all staff, just as for the probationary period. Assessment is made against these in terms of efficiency, abilities, and conduct. And for us, the performance dialogue is an important moment to discuss and reflect upon the work done, the results achieved, and the developments in terms of learning, but also in terms of career aspirations. A number of colleagues among the best performers of the year is also promoted to the next higher grade. As HR business partners, we accompany managers and staff during this cycle, guaranteeing there is a constructive dialogue all along the year and mediating when there is a need of doing so. We also support staff with career coaching, which is a set of dialogues with the aim of enabling people making career choices by assessing individual abilities and interests. And we're also there, as Paola mentioned, there's a 5-year contract renewable for 5 years. So we're there to support the managers and staff on this process and to confirm the renewal of the contract and for anything related to the culture at EFSA. So in essence, we're here for people together with the managers and colleagues to make work at EFSA a great experience. And with that, I leave the floor to my colleague Somai, which can go more in depth on learning at EFSA. Thank you.
Thank you, Federica. So last but not least, I will present the learning opportunities that someone has as an employee in EFSA. My name is Somai Konomidu, and I'm a talent development officer here at the European Food Safety Authority. So to guide you through, to give you a bit of an overview of the learning opportunities, I will guide you through an indicative learning journey that a colleague may have when they join EFSA. So let's take the example of Maria. Maria is a scientific officer. She is an expatriate and she joined recently EFSA. So as my colleagues mentioned, she's onboarded, and as part of her onboarding experience, she's assigned a mentor, someone who can support her and help her integrate and accelerate her induction into the EFSA way of working. She will also be called to attend mandatory training courses, and these are all offered online. And she can also, as an expatriate, she and her husband can attend Italian language training courses, as also mentioned by my colleague. After the onboarding, and after successfully completing the onboarding, Maria can develop her learning plan along with her line manager. So in the learning plan, she is identifying the key competencies that she needs to develop, the ones that are key to master, or which are very important for and included in her job profile. And after having identified those learning needs, she can select relevant training courses that she can attend from EFSA's learning offer. The learning offer is an in-house learning training catalog, which comprises of all the training courses that staff can attend face-to-face or online. We identify this catalog of trainings by analyzing the organizational learning needs as they derive from the strategy, but also the individual learning plans and competency gaps as they have been assessed during the performance dialogue between staff and managers. So Maria can select a variety of courses from the learning offer, from scientific courses. There are specific courses on risk assessment, to communication courses, how to communicate science, to more corporate business courses, for example, business performance-based management. But you can also develop behavioral competencies. So there are courses from negotiation skills to chairing meetings, but also to boost her resilience and well-being. So she could also attend our internal mindfulness program. If her learning needs are very job-specific, Maria can also attend external training that is not delivered by EFSA, but by external providers. And she can also, in that respect, attend scientific conferences. So far, I've talked a lot about the formal part of learning, but that is only one way that Maria can learn. She can also learn on the job. So she can take part in transversal cross-cutting projects or processes,
But she can also learn from other people. So she can take part in scientific communities of practice that are in place, so she can share with others her knowledge and learn from others. She can also learn from her manager. She can attend coaching conversations. EFSA is investing a lot in leadership development and trying to enable managers to bring out the best from their people. And we want to believe that as Maria's career progress, she can also have other kind of opportunities. Indicatively, my colleague Federica mentioned about career coaching opportunities that someone can have, but also there are other opportunities. For example, Maria could attend a personal leadership development program which aims at developing EFSA's future leaders. So our vision is that as EFSA evolves, its staff members involved too by learning and growing, so we can create a real true learning organization, an organization where people share, acquire, transfer knowledge, and continuously transform itself. So that's a short overview of the learning opportunities. Thank you very much. I think it's back to Anne.
Thank you very much, Tomei. So we have now nearly reached the end of our webinar, but before that, we thought it would be nice to have a final Q&A session. So yes, may I ask Simon, do we have questions in the chat that we can ask our colleagues?
Yes. We have quite some questions in the chat. And the first one is for Elena Testa. Dear Elena, could you elaborate a bit on how is the recruitment process conducted at EFSA, and is there a selection committee for every call?
Thank you, Simon, for this question. Yes, we have for every selection call, we have a selection board established. The composition of the selection board is published on our website, and the work of the selection board starts basically with the CV screening and ends with the establishment of the reserve list.
Thank you, Elena, for your answer. There are some questions in the audience. If we don't succeed in the CV screening process, will we receive a feedback?
Yes, we send negative and positive outcomes after every selection phase is over. So basically after the CV screening, the written test together with the online video interview, and after the final interview. So these are basically positive or negative outcomes informing candidates that they have been shortlisted to the next phase or they are not. But feedback is also available for candidates if they request it. Candidates just need to reply to the email informing them about the outcome, and then we will reply with the feedback.
Thank you. And a final question for you, Elena. Once you are included in the talent pool at EFSA, could there be another follow-up interview by the respective unit or department?
Yeah, this can actually happen because it's the fact that the reserve list can be used by different unit means that sometimes the hiring manager is not the one, the one that is interested in a person, in the candidate, might not necessarily be the same that was organizing the selection process. So yeah, we may organize a second interview with this hiring manager. In general, we give some time, some notice period, but this second interview doesn't have the same structure as the first, meaning that you don't need to basically show your competencies anymore. People are already placed on the reserve list, and this is not going to change. So it's just basically a chat where there is an exchange of views, of interest, and of expectations, basically from EFSA and from the candidate.
Thank you for that, Elena. There have been quite some questions about if non-European citizens could work for EFSA. Rana, could you elaborate on that?
Sure, yes, thank you, Simon. So indeed, we have opportunities also for non-EU citizens because they are eligible for traineeships, secondment program, guest programs, ESA call, and all the experts calls, which are panel or working groups, but also interim positions. So we have quite a lot of opportunities for non-EU as well. Yes.
There are a lot of young professionals in this career event, and we have received the questions. Are recent graduates able to apply at EFSA?
Yes, sure. Actually, to be 100% sure that the recent graduate is eligible, I invite this candidate to redirect to the job vacancy where you have the eligibility criteria. So you have to understand whether in terms of studies levels or in terms of minimum years of experience you are eligible. But we have very often published new calls, vacancies that applies as well for young graduate candidates. And something as well that maybe we have among the audience some PhDs completed or going to be completed soon. So for this as well, please keep in mind that the PhD count as well for 3 years of working experience. So this is something that if you have completed, it should be mentioned in your vacancy.
Thank you very much, Rana.
Thank you, Simon.
We have a question for Paola. When do you expect to be working back at the office at the EFSA premises? And what are the teleworking options within EFSA?
Okay, really depends on the evolving of the situation of the vaccination as well. We really hope to be able to go back slowly as from September, but not full time. So probably 2.5 days a week, and the teleworking will remain the same. So we are working in a very ruled environment. We have rules to follow, and the teleworking at the moment foresees up to a maximum of 2.5 days of teleworking. So depending on the pandemic situation, we will go back to normal, 2.5 days a week.
Thank you very much. You talked about the different allowances you could receive as a staff member, but if you could sell the city of Parma, what are the advantages of living in Parma?
Yes, Parma is a small town, but very, very lively. There is a lot of culture. There are a lot of cultural events, and the nature is fantastic. So we really live close to the sea, but also to the mountains. In 1 hour time, you can reach the sea, you can reach the mountains. We are close to Milano, Bologna. So for family situation is fantastic because it's a little town. You can go by bicycle, but also for young people, there is the university. So it's really lively, really, really lively. It's quite secure. So, and there are a lot of industry close by companies, international companies. So before the COVID, we started to organize some events also with other companies with expat to try to integrate and, to expand a bit the integration in Parma and facilitate the integration for expat staff. And then there is Scuola, the European school, which is also great. So it's a small town, but very, very lively, and we're very nice to live in.
Thank you very much, Paola. I have a follow-up question for Federica, who talked about the importance of the HR business partner role. Federica, if you start as a new colleague within EFSA, what's important to do in your first months? What's important to do in your first months in order to be fully integrated at EFSA?
Thanks, Sam. Work related, it is important to get familiar with the job profile. So what are the requirements, and take the time. We allow the time, especially the first month, to get to know the work, the processes, the procedures that we have. But in terms of integration, it's important to have exchanges with colleagues. And as I said, in the remote setting is slightly more difficult, but we are making sure that a newcomer gets introduced to all the teams of their unit, so they get to have informal coffees where there's the possibility to get informal exchanges, and this is important for us because it establishes a trust to start working together, so it's not purely work related. What we're also doing as HR business partners, creating opportunities for people as I said, now, especially in the remote setting, you only see people you're working with, so you might miss some of the 500 colleagues. We create opportunities for newcomers to create a group around the period they started. So within, let's say, 3 months, we get together all the newcomers from the different departments and different units. So a newcomer might dedicate time in their first period to get to know EFSA and also other areas of working, because we are working a lot together. We are a very collaborative agency, so it's important not just to know your part of work, but to know how we work all together. So I would say these two elements: knowing the processes and acquiring the tools to work in EFSA, but also knowing how to collaborate and get exchanges with these colleagues environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Federica. And the last question is for Tomai. If colleagues move position within EFSA, so they move to another unit, another department, another role, do you help them with their reskilling?
Of course, thanks for the question. And so, yes, if someone is changing role within EFSA, then they start developing a new learning plan, and they need to perhaps develop new competencies. So, and then of course that means new learning opportunities or different learning opportunities. So that is definitely something that is catered for.
Thank you very much, Tomai. That's all for the questions part. So we'll give the floor back to our, and thanks a lot to the other UCAP colleagues. And I will give back the floor to Anne, our presenter.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you to all our HR colleagues for answering these questions. I will now leave the floor to Elena, whom you already know, to conclude this event.
Yes, thank you, Anna. So, dear participants, we have reached the end of our first virtual career event. We also wish to thank you for your time on behalf of EFSA. And also I wish to thank all the colleagues who helped us presenting and sharing their experience, as well as the team who made it possible to organize this event. As you probably know, this is our first virtual career event. We wanted to create an opportunity to reach out to our potential candidates in this period of restrictions. So we wanted to present you EFSA, what we do, our career opportunities, to have our colleagues explaining what it means to work for us and with us. And also to show you our current vacancies and to alert you on the new vacancies. As you know, we are now 500, but we are growing. The final target is to be over 600 staff members, so there will be much more opportunities coming out. If you have any idea on how to improve this event and how to make it more useful, you will receive a feedback session. For us, it's really important to get your input and so that we can work on other opportunities to engage with you, our candidates. You have also seen that we have a lot of opportunities. We focus a bit more on staff opportunities, but there are several ways to engage and to work with us. If you don't see an opportunity that is fitting your needs, please let us know. We have put here in the slide our functional mailbox and also the link to our career page. We are very much looking forward. We are always trying to develop new ways to work with us and to engage with us. So your feedbacks and your ideas are really welcome. There is a last point I would like to make, and it is please don't forget to register if you have not done already so to our job alerts in our career page. When you register, you will be notified of all the career opportunities that we are publishing, and also follow us on our social media, in particular on LinkedIn, to find out our latest updates and our job offers. So I wish to wish you a very good afternoon and to see you. We really hope to see you as a candidate to one of our calls. So have a nice continuation of the day, and thank you very much for joining us.